Millionaire CEO discovers hidden truth after a child's heartwarming whisper. No one comes for me, Jake Mitchell, a self-made millionaire with a glittering reputation in Silicon Valley, sat in his sprawling mansion, the walls adorned with accolades gathered from his years of ruthless ambition. His luxurious life was a visual feast of wealth-sleek cars, party invitations from the elite, and a bank account that never stopped growing. Yet, beneath the surface, a crushing emptiness gnawed at him, a silent scream that echoed in the vastness of his home. He had conquered the world of business, but somehow, it all felt hollow. One afternoon, weighed down by the relentless pressure and the choking solitude that enveloped him, Jake stepped out of his ivory tower and found himself on a different street, a neighborhood that told stories of struggle amid colorful murals peeling on aged walls. The local community center buzzed with life, laughter, and chaos, starkly contrasting the polished veneer of his life. Children darted between furniture worn from love rather than luxury. This was real life. This was where his heart pulsed with unexpected rhythm as he mingled with the families here. He was approached by Mia, a spirited 10-year-old girl with wide, trusting eyes that sparkled like the golden hour sun. She wore colorful mismatched clothes, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Hey, mister," she said, her voice bright and unwavering. Something about her energy captivated him. Jake smiled and knelt. But then, she leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a dagger. "No one comes for me." The words hung in the air like a haunting melody. In that moment, Jake felt a crack in the wall he had built around his emotions. A tightness gripped his chest as he took in the world beyond his wealth, the disparity, the loneliness, the raw truth. She was just a child, yet somehow she saw right through the fabricated layers of his life. Pity washed over him like a tidal wave. How could he continue living in his bubble, while children like Mia awaited a checking hand that never came? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he forged a bond with Mia, supporting her family who struggled to keep the lights on, the backlash he faced from his affluent friends was sharp and unforgiving. "Why are you wasting your time there?" they sneered during cocktail parties, clinking their glasses laden with champagne. But Jake felt the flame of responsibility ignite within him each time he thought of Mia's hopeful smile. Each act of kindness turned the looking glass around. What did it mean to truly succeed? Yet with every heartwarming moment came painful memories of his distanced family, deepening the chasm between who he was and who he wanted to be. Just as Jake considered his path one that balanced ambition with compassion, a devastating crisis struck Mia's family, exposing deep-seated issues that challenged every principle he believed in. At that moment, Jake stood at a pivotal crossroad. Would he choose to stand by the girl who opened his eyes, risking everything, or return to the safety of his wealth and privilege? The stakes were higher than he ever anticipated, leaving him questioning not just his place in the world, but the very fabric of his existence. What would his choice reveal about him in the end? The uncertainty loomed large, waiting for Jake's next move. Jake felt his heart race as he stood in front of Mia's house, its worn door barely hanging on its hinges. The rain drizzled softly above, matching the weight of his thoughts. Just hours before, Mia's mother had called him, her voice trembling. They were in trouble and things were getting worse. "Mr. Mitchell," she had stammered, the urgency in her voice pulling him like a current. "We can't afford the rent this month. The landlord says if we don't pay." And just like that, Jake's world had narrowed down to this small family's struggle. He had never felt such raw desperation, and it scared him. Would he act, or slip back into the comfort of his own life, insulated from their pain? His grip tightened around the laptop bag. He carried a harmless item in the tech world, but today it felt like a lifeline. He knocked softly on the door. Moments later, Mia flung it open, her eyes wide with excitement. momentarily overshadowed by worry. "Mr. Jake, you came," she exclaimed, rushing into his arms. "Of course I'm here. How is your mom?" He squeezed her tightly, wishing he could promise everything would be okay. But deep inside, the words felt heavy. "She's inside. She was crying earlier," Mia said, her smile faltering. With that, Jake's heart pounded. He followed her in, the warmth of the worn, cozy space wrapping around him like a comforting blanket despite its problems. It was real, palpable, a world away from his golden cage. Mia's mother sat at the kitchen table, her head buried in her hands. As Jake approached, her sorrowful gaze lifted to meet his. "I'm so sorry to bother you with this," she said, her voice cracking like glass. "I don't know why I thought of you." He cut her off gently, his mind racing with options. "You don't have to apologize. I want to help. But your life. You're busy with I'm not too busy for this," he replied, his voice firm. It was the first time he had felt a decisive spark of purpose. He pulled up a chair and set his bag down. "Let us talk. Tell me everything." Minutes turned into hours as they discussed the problems facing her family. The debts, the mounting pressure, and the feeling of helplessness poured out. With every word, Jake could feel himself submerged deeper into their reality. They weren't just statistics. They were people with dreams and fears, struggling against an unforgiving tide. Mia doodled on a napkin. Jake gently pulled out his laptop, his fingers hovering over the keys. What could he do? Could he help them find more resources, a fund, maybe even a mentor? The wheels in his mind began to turn, ideas flashing through like fireflies in a darkened field. But even as hope poured in, doubt lurked. What if this was a mistake? The business world had taught him to be guarded, to protect his assets, to avoid entanglements that could derail his carefully curated path. He hesitated. Mia's small voice broke through his thoughts. "Mr. Jake, you could be our hero." She spoke with such conviction, a spark igniting in her eyes, and in that moment, Jake knew everything was shifting inside him. Hero? What did that even mean? As he looked into Mia's hopeful face, he felt the weight of every moment pushing against his past, reshaping him in ways he never imagined. But would he embrace this challenge? Would he risk everything he built for the sake of someone else's future? The uncertainty gnawed at him, and his heart thudded against his ribs. "Okay, we can do this," he whispered, his voice now barely audible. Before he could dive deeper into his thoughts, a loud knock interrupted them. The sound echoed down the hallway, a reminder that they were not alone in this struggle. In an instant, the mood shifted as Mia's mother froze, eyes wide with fear. Jake quickly rose, propelled by instinct to protect. "Stay here," he said softly, glancing back at Mia. Who was at the door? And what did they want? Jake's heart raced, sensing the tension filling the air like thick smoke. All at once, he felt the weight of his choices crash against the power of that single whisper. It was time to rise, or run. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the pounding of his heart drown out all other sounds. He stepped cautiously to the door, each footfall amplified in the silence of the small house. It felt surreal, like he was entering a scene in a movie, one where the hero had to decide whether to confront the danger or hide from it. However, this wasn't fiction. This was real life, and behind that door lay threats they couldn't afford to ignore. "Mr. Jake?" Mia whispered, her voice quivering slightly as she clutched her napkin art, a drawing of a superhero. The innocence of the image contrasted sharply with the dire circumstances outside their door. He looked back at her, meeting her wide eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. He had to protect her, no matter what. A second knock sounded, sharper this time, followed by a voice he didn't recognize. "Open up. It's the landlord." The words dripped with authority, and a layer of dread washed over Jake. He turned to Mia's mother, who sat rigid at the kitchen table, her face draining of color. "What do we do?" she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. His instinct kicked in, overriding the uncertainty swirling in his mind. "We need to talk to him somehow. Maybe we can work something out." He could hear his pulse thrumming in his ears. Another knock. This isn't a joke. I've got my orders. The landlord's voice was harsh, cutting through the tension like a knife. Jake couldn't think of leaving them to face this alone. Stay back, Mia, he instructed again, adrenaline sharpening his focus. He swung the door open, standing tall. The landlord stood there, a heavy-set man with a frown etched across his brow, impatience radiating from him like heat. What do you want? Jake asked, willing himself to sound confident, though inside he felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff. I want what's owed. The landlord snapped, his eyes narrowing at Jake. This isn't a charity. They're behind on rent, and I'm not letting this go any further. Please, Jake jumped in, trying to keep his voice steady. Let us talk this through. I can help find a way to. I don't have time for this. The landlord growled, his eyes darting over Jake. Then, just below the surface, there was something else, a hint of aggression, as if he smelled a weakness. Jake's heart raced. Doubt crept in again. Would he really be able to change anything? The thought of backing down lit a fire inside him. They had fought so hard to be here. He couldn't let them be pushed aside now. You can't just throw them out like this, he insisted, stepping forward. The landlord recoiled slightly. You don't know how this works, kid. They have until tomorrow. If I don't get payment, and what? You think you can scare them into giving up? Jake's fists clenched at his sides. He caught a glimpse of Mia, peeking around the door frame, her eyes wide. The weight of their hopes fell on him. No one is giving up, he said firmly, feeling the strength surge within him. You're not taking them from here. I'll make sure of it. For a moment, the tension held. The world seemed to freeze, the room thick with unresolved emotions. Then, the landlord let out a low laugh, shaking his head. You think you can just waltz in here and fix things? You have no idea what you're up against. But what he didn't know was that sparks flew from Jake's determination, igniting something deeper. He recognized now it was no longer just about Mia's family, it was about the fight for dignity. For hope. As the landlord folded his arms, looking unimpressed, Jake's mind raced. What could he possibly say to turn this situation around? Your home is worth fighting for, he declared, galvanizing himself. And if you want to throw them out, you'll have to go through me first. Another heavy silence blanketed the room, but as Jake's eyes met the landlord's, he felt the flames of resolve flicker brighter. What would happen next? Would the confrontation lead to a breakthrough or an even bigger crisis? Jake had stepped onto a battlefield he never thought he'd enter, and the stakes were higher than ever. Could he truly protect this family, or would he lose everything he had fought to build? One thing was clear as he stood in that doorway, catching a glimpse of Mia's uncertain smile. The battle had only just begun. Jake felt the landlord's cold stare drill into him, the man's disdain clear. He couldn't back down now. The truth was, this was about more than money. It was about keeping a family together when everything seemed set against them. The landlord shifted his weight, feigning disinterest, but Jake could see the flicker of anger in his eyes. Look, the landlord said, his voice low but laced with sarcasm. You can keep puffing out your chest all you want, but at the end of the day, that door will be kicked in unless someone pays up. And I don't mean next week or next month. I mean now. Mia's mother finally spoke, her voice wavering. Please, we'll get the rent. Just need time. Her plea hung in the air, filled with desperation. Time us up, the landlord snapped, his chin jutting forward like a bulldog preparing to bite. You can't afford more excuses. You've had plenty already. Jake glanced back at Mia. She was holding her superhero drawing tightly, her fingers trembling. That image of strength was what he wanted to protect. What if I pay? Jake blurted out before he could reconsider. Silence fell again, the weight of his words pressing down as he watched the landlord's brow rise in surprise. Really? The landlord scoffed, a smirk forming on his lips. And you think you can whip out your wallet and save the day? Huh? Don't deceive yourself, kid. You don't have that kind of cash. I can find it, Jake insisted, conviction surging behind his words. The idea of failing Mia and her family ignited a fire deep inside him. What if I could come up with a payment plan? I'll figure something out. For a moment, the landlord studied him, the wheels clearly turning in his mind. Then he laughed, dismissively. Good luck with that. This isn't some schoolyard game. You've got until tomorrow. After that, they'll be gone. Don't say that, Mia interrupted, stepping out from behind Jake, her tiny form looking bold. We're not going anywhere. The landlord took a step back, caught off guard. Children shouldn't be involved in adult matters, he retorted, but a hint of uncertainty crept into his voice. Jake knelt next to Mia, meeting her gaze. You're right. We are gonna stay right here. He returned his attention to the landlord. You'll see I'll come through for them. The landlord crossed his arms, clearly not buying it. You're just making a fool of yourself, he warned. But I'll give you till the end of the day. If you don't find the money, you'll be the one paying for this little stunt. With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, leaving heaviness in his wake. Jake felt the moment settle, the tension in the air thick with uncertainty. What now? Mia's voice, soft and shaky, broke him from his reverie. He stood up, taking a deep breath. Now we fight. Mia's mother looked at him, hope and fear glittering in her gaze. How will we do that? We don't have any money. Jake looked around the small, cluttered kitchen, where the memories of laughter and warmth lingered. He saw the drawings Mia had made, her hopes scrawled across colorful paper. There had to be a way. We get creative. There's got to be something or someone who can help. Maybe we can gather a few friends, a local charity, anything. Mia's eyes flickered with determination. I want to help. I can try to sell my drawings. Absolutely. We'll do this together, Jake said, the sound of resolve echoing in his chest. They would figure out a way to fight back, even if it felt impossible. As they huddled together, Jake felt a swell of energy surge through him. Hope certainly existed. It was in the little things like Mia's art and a community ready to lend a hand when needed. But would they be able to come together in time? Maybe they could find a way to raise the money. But as the clock ticked, he wondered, would he be able to keep that promise, and what new challenges awaited them? As the sun dipped lower, shadows began to creep into the room, darkening the corners. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Jake looked at Mia, her determined expression igniting something powerful within him. First, let us gather your drawings. We can set up a little stand outside. Maybe others will see how awesome they are, and we can raise some money. Mia's eyes lit up at the thought. What if we make a sign? Like help save our home? She beamed with excitement, her earlier fear melting away as a plan took shape. Great idea, Jake said, grinning back at her enthusiasm. But we need to act fast. Let us get everything ready and hit the streets. As they dashed around the apartment, gathering Mia's colorful masterpieces, Jake felt a growing sense of urgency. Leafing through the drawings, he admitted to himself that each one was a little piece of her heart. There were superheroes flying over the city, vibrant rainbows connecting magical landscapes, and brave explorers on epic adventures. They weren't just drawings, they were Mia's dreams. Mia's mother helped too, her hands shaking slightly as she peeled the tape from the walls where the drawings had adorned their home. I can't believe you're doing this, Jake, she said, a tremor in her voice. But what if we don't sell enough? We'll sell something. It'll be a start, Jake replied, though doubt flickered in his mind. They could raise hope, even if it didn't seem like enough against the mountain of their problems. He could feel the pressure of the landlord's words hanging over them, but he refused to let fear win. Once they had everything packed and a small table set up outside, the sun was beginning to hang low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground. Kids played nearby, their laughter a beautiful contrast to the tension they faced. Okay, Mia, let us get started, Jake said, setting up the small display. He watched as she arranged her artwork, each one like a tiny flame of hope breaking through the dimness. People began to pass, some glancing curiously while others hurried past without a word. As the minutes slipped by, a knot tightened in Jake's stomach. What if no one buys anything? He thought, trying to shake the dread away. He couldn't bear the thought of disappointing Mia or her mother. Suddenly, an elderly woman stopped. She examined the drawings, a smile forming on her face. "These are wonderful, dear," she said to Mia, her eyes twinkling. "What a talented little artist you are." Mia's cheeks flushed, and she looked up at Jake, beaming. "See, someone likes them." Encouraged, Jake threw himself into the pitch. "They are really special and we're raising money to help Mia's family keep their home," he explained. The woman nodded, rifling through her purse. "How much for the sunny day one?" she asked, pointing to a bright painting of a sun setting over a field of flowers. How about $5? Jake stammered, surprised at how easily the words flowed from his mouth. "That works, right?" "Of course," the woman said, handing Mia the money and taking the painting with a smile. Mia clapped her hands, bouncing on her feet. "See, we're doing it." And just like that, hope surged through Jake, renewed and palpable. But as they continued, it became clear that they needed more than a few dollars. The sun began to dip lower, casting golden light that shifted into hues of orange, and still, they were far from their goal. Jake's heart sank. What do we do if this is all we get? Then he spotted a couple of teenagers nearby, eyeing a trendy skateboard. Inspiration struck. "Mia, let us show the kids how cool your drawings are." "Like a demo?" she asked, her eyes growing wide with excitement. "Just like that. We need them to see how awesome your art is." Together, they called over the teens. With Mia narrating the themes and stories behind her drawings, Jake could see interest sparking as they gathered around. Each word Mia spoke was infused with passion, and the teens were hooked. Jake held his breath, wondering if this would lead to something bigger. But would it be enough to save Mia's home? He felt the clock ticking. The landlord wouldn't wait much longer, and they had to fight harder now than ever before. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting uncertainty over the evening. Jake could only hope that their little stand would become something that changed everything. Would their creativity be enough to generate a real chance for survival? He was frightened but more determined than ever. Would they pull through, or were they running out of time? Mia's voice carried through the gathering crowd, a quiet strength reaching out to the teens who had paused to listen. "This one is a superhero just like you all," she beamed, pointing to a colorful image depicting figures in capes. "They protect the city, and this one saves the day with kindness." Jake watched as her passion transformed her timid demeanor. Each excited word drew in passers-by, who started to nod and lean closer. The teenagers exchanged glances, their skepticism fading. "Wow, is that all yours?" one of them asked, clearly impressed. "Yes. It's my dream to be an artist," Mia replied, her voice almost cracking with pure thrill, as if she were sharing a secret about her heart. Her enthusiasm was contagious. Jake felt it reverberate through him too, overpowering his doubts. Just then, a couple of younger kids wandered over, their eyes wide like saucers taking in all the colors. One little girl pointed excitedly at the painting of a majestic dragon flying over a castle. "Can I touch it?" she asked. "Of course. Each one has a story," Mia said, adjusting to her role of storyteller with an ease Jake couldn't help but admire. He felt a rush of pride for her, his heart swelling as he saw the admiration in the children's faces. Soon, the laughter and chatter grew around them as Mia demonstrated her drawings with a flair that was almost magical. While Jake remained a bit in the background, he took the opportunity to look around, feeling the weight of gratitude for the people who paused to appreciate Mia's art. Perhaps this was it, a moment that could spiral into something greater. The sun continued to dip lower, and Jake could see the shadows stretching longer, reminding him of the looming deadline. He knew they needed to act fast. "Hey everyone," Jake finally shouted, summoning both the teens and those gathered around. "We're also taking donations if you can't buy a piece. Even a little could help Mia's family. Every dollar counts." A few people rummaged through their pockets, pulling out spare change. Mia beamed, a light in her eyes that made Jake feel lighter as well. But just as hope began building momentum, reality crashed in. A group of adults crossed the street, faces set in determination. Among them was Mr. Thompson, the landlord, his gaze sharp as he scanned the scene. Jake felt his heart drop. What if he didn't just come to observe? What if he came to shut them down? Mia, I need you to stay close, Jake murmured, urgency threading through his voice. She glanced up, her smile faltering for just a moment as she sensed his worry. They finished discussing the last painting with the teens, who promised to think about it. As they drifted away with friendly waves, Jake steered Mia back to their little stand. Mia, he started, but his words were cut off when Mr. Thompson approached, his expression unreadable. What is going on here, Jake? He said with a raised eyebrow, scanning the collection of drawings. You know you can't just set up shop like this. Jake's pulse quickened as he glanced around. The crowd, once lifting his spirits, now seemed like a watchful jury. We're just raising awareness. Awareness doesn't pay rent, the landlord snapped, cutting him off. Get this mess cleaned up. As the confrontation escalated, Jake felt the heat rise in his chest. With one final, fierce glance back at Mia, genuine worry mixed with a flickering hope, Jake stepped forward. All around him, he could sense the audience holding their breath. He was done with waiting. No, we're not done yet. Mia deserves this chance. Silence fell heavy in the air as he prepared to fight for something far bigger than just a table of drawings. But would his boldness be enough to turn the tide? Would it help save Mia's home? Or was it just stirring the pot of trouble? Jake could feel the weight of Mr. Thompson's glare pressing down on him, a mix of fear and resolve coursing through his veins. The crowd held its breath, and he could hear their whispers, a blend of concern and curiosity. Here he was, just a kid trying to protect something beautiful, and yet the odds felt astronomically stacked against him. Mia deserves to share her art, he asserted, more defiantly than he knew he could be. People love it. They're willing to help. You can't shut this down just because you don't like what we're doing. The last words tumbled out before he had fully processed them. Maybe it was the adrenaline. Maybe it was the fierce need to stand up for Mia, but he couldn't just let fear dictate their fate anymore. Mia, standing beside him, shifted nervously, her eyes darting between Jake and Mr. Thompson. It's really important to me, she whispered, as if sharing her dreams would somehow grant them the strength they needed to keep going. You don't have a permit, Jake, Mr. Thompson said, keeping his voice steady but heavy with authority. I could call the cops. The intimidation was palpable, and Jake felt a rush of blood to his cheeks. The crowd was watching, and he couldn't back down now. But Jake fumbled, searching for words that would change the chapter they were all in. People need to see her art. It's more than just selling pictures. It's about community and hope. The tense air thickened around them, puncturing the normal afternoon buzz. A sudden chorus of murmurs erupted from the crowd. Heads nodded, faces softened with understanding. The very essence of what Mia represented started to resonate deeply. They weren't just looking at drawings. They were witnessing a dream. Taking a deep breath, Jake summoned every ounce of courage he could muster. What if we made it a fundraiser for the community? If everyone chips in, we can do something amazing. This isn't just about Mia. It's about everyone who needs a little hope. The crowd seemed to ripple with energy, glancing at one another, the initial hesitance dissolving into whispers of agreement. Yeah. Let us help her, someone shouted. Just give us a chance. Mia's voice was stronger now, bolstered by the support around her. Jake's heart soared. He could see it, the spark igniting in her eyes, the life of a dream taking shape. Mr. Thompson, visibly frustrated, crossed his arms, temper simmering beneath a stern expression. You're risking a lot here, Jake. A lot more than you understand. I know, Jake said, determination solid as concrete. But sometimes taking a risk is the only way to fight for what matters. Their eyes locked, and for a split second, Jake thought the landlord might relent. Then a smile broke across his face, not a kind one, but an understanding one. You have spirit, kid. I'll give you that. But don't think this was a victory. Jake's breath hitched as Mr. Thompson turned, signaling his departure. The crowd began to disperse, but something beautiful hung clearly in the air. Mia's artwork now felt more alive, more meaningful. It had sparked something profound within that moment. Thank you, Mia whispered, her soft voice barely making it across their space. There was an undeniable warmth pooling between them, a connection fueled by the battle they had just faced together. Jake watched her pack up her artwork, a smile lingering on his lips. Despite the challenge, the future felt tinged with possibility. He knew they weren't out of the woods yet, and the journey would only get tougher from here. Just as they were about to head home, a figure approached from the edge of the park. It was an older woman, her eyes gleaming with an idea or perhaps an opportunity. "Excuse me," she called, drawing closer. "I couldn't help but overhear if you're raising funds. I want to help." Mia and Jake exchanged looks, a spark of hope igniting anew. What could this mean for them? As the woman stepped into their space, Jake felt the stirrings of something bigger than just an afternoon gathering. Perhaps what lay ahead was more than just survival. Perhaps it was a chance to create something that would last. But would it be enough to save Mia's world? Or were they just inviting more unexpected challenges in their fight for hope? The woman smiled warmly, her presence radiating an aura of quiet strength. She had streaks of silver in her hair and wore a simple but elegant dress that seemed to flow around her like a gentle breeze. Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and for a moment, Jake felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt before: hope. "I'm Clara," she said, extending a hand. "I've been watching young artists struggle to get their work out there for years. I believe in what you're doing. Art has the power to transform homes and hearts." Mia looked hesitant but intrigued. Clara seemed genuine, infused with a kind of wisdom that put Jake at ease. "What do you have in mind?" Jake asked, his voice steady yet curious. "I organize events, community gatherings that celebrate local talent. I can help you put together a fundraiser right here, in this park," Clara said, her smile widening. "We could invite more local artists, musicians, anyone who wants to share their gift." Mia's eyes widened. "Really? You'd do that for us?" "Absolutely," Clara replied, her voice warm and inviting. "We'll bring people together. They'll share not just their art but their stories. And yes, there will be donations. It's about building a sense of family in our community." Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. "That sounds amazing, but is that really possible?" "Of course," Clara reassured him with a nod. "But it's going to take work from all of us. The more hands, the better. Are you in?" Mia shot Jake a hopeful glance. "We could really bring the community together," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. "Yes, let us do it," he replied, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. The thrill of the moment surged through him. His heart felt as if it was racing in sync with theirs, beating loudly in a chorus of determination. As they continued discussing details, thoughts swirled in Jake's mind. They needed artists to help, musicians for entertainment, someone who could handle logistics. But amid all those thoughts, doubt crept in. What if it all fell apart? What if Mr. Thompson sought revenge? Shaking off the negative energy, he pushed forward, focusing on the possibilities ahead. The taste of victory lingered on the tip of his tongue. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden hue across the park. Children laughed, and neighbors gathered, creating an atmosphere buzzing with excitement and anticipation. Jake watched as Clara took charge, outlining plans for flyers and scheduling meetings. The excitement was palpable, yet he felt a subtle chill run down his spine. Before long, the trio had set a date for their event, and the reality of it drew closer. Mia was drawing a fresh piece, inspired by the energy around her, while Clara jotted down notes that swirled with potential. "Let us spread the word and get everyone involved," Jake said, fueled by the atmosphere. "But we need to anticipate problems. I just can't shake the worry about Mr. Thompson," Mia confessed, her brow furrowing. "I'll deal with him if it comes to that," Jake said, more fiercely than he intended. "He won't take this from us." The sun had almost set now, creating a magical twilight glow, and as Jake watched Mia concentrate on her art, he felt a warmth fill him. Maybe they could overcome anything together. Just then, an unexpected figure emerged from the shadow of the trees. It was a familiar face, a neighborhood kid who often played soccer in the park. "Hey, I heard about your event. Can I help?" he shouted, eyes bright with eagerness. Jake smiled, feeling it swell inside him, a sense of community, a pulse of belonging. It was happening. And yet, the underlying tension with Mr. Thompson loomed large. Is this just the beginning of gathering their community? Or was it a call to a deeper confrontation? Jake knew then, beneath the sparkle of joy, that shadows were already gathering. Would they have the strength to face Mr. Thompson if it all came crashing down? The next few days blurred together in a flurry of activity, excitement, and whispering doubts. Clara was everywhere, organizing meetings, gathering volunteers, and painting a picture of a vibrant and thriving community festival. Jake could hardly keep up, but he clung to the energy that surrounded him like a lifeline. Mia, too, was swept away in a creative surge, sketching and brainstorming ideas that were nothing short of electric. One evening, as the sun cast long shadows through the park, the three of them gathered to finalize the plans. Tables filled with art supplies and project notes cluttered the picnic area. Jake looked at Mia, her hands animated as she described her vision for a mural. He felt a swell of pride. This was what they had wanted all along, a chance to showcase their art and create something meaningful together. But there was still that fear, lurking in the corners of his mind. What would Mr. Thompson do when he found out? He couldn't take this from them, yet the uneasiness gnawed at him. He glanced at Clara, whose focus radiated unwavering confidence. "We'll face whatever comes," she said, as if sensing his thoughts. "Art is stronger than fear. Remember that." The day of the event dawned bright and clear. Jake woke to the sounds of the park coming alive. Children's laughter filled the air, mingling with the soothing rustle of leaves. He could feel his heart racing with anticipation, and he fought against the tightness in his chest. They had worked so hard for this moment. Mia was busy setting up her work, administrators everywhere, and he watched as the first attendees trickled in, drawn by the vibrant atmosphere. Artists displayed their creations, musicians tuned their instruments, and the sense of food wafted through the air. Then, just as a small crowd began to gather, Jake spotted a figure from across the field. It was Mr. Thompson, standing against a backdrop of solemn clouds, arms crossed, surveying the scene with a glare that cut through the festivity. His stomach dropped. "I should have known he'd come," Jake muttered under his breath. Mia, noticing his tense expression, followed his gaze. "Is that? Yeah. That's him. What do we do?" She breathed, her voice filled with worry. "We go on," Jake chuckled nervously, but there was no real laughter in it. His pulse quickened. With Clara's encouragement, they stepped forward to welcome the community. They had planned this event for weeks. They couldn't back down now. Show must go on, he thought, a mantra he hoped would give him strength as the event progressed. People began to mingle, laughter erupted from every corner, and art painted smiles on faces. It felt like a celebration of hope. Jake saw Mia demonstrating her painting technique. A small group of children clustered around her, eyes wide with awe. He smiled. This was turning into something beautiful. But just when Jake thought they had created enough distance from Mr. Thompson's dark presence, he made his way through the crowd, a solitary force walking towards them like a storm. Clara stood tall beside him, her eyes fixed on Mr. Thompson, a fierce look of defiance. "What should we do?" Mia whispered, fear dancing on her features. "Let us confront him together," Jake said, his voice steady as he clenched his fists. As Mr. Thompson stepped closer, the crescendo of voices around them faded into an almost deafening silence. "Hey, are you the mastermind behind this little gathering?" His tone was cut, sharp as glass. Jake took a deep breath, ready to defend everything they had built. The air crackled with tension. What would they say? Would this moment define them or break them? He locked eyes with Mia, and in that instant, both recognized that the answer lay in their unity. "We're here to bring this community together," Jake said, his voice strong despite the fear coursing through him. But what he didn't expect was the expression that flickered across Thompson's face, a simmering anger mixed with something almost vulnerable beneath the surface. Would this confrontation change everything for better or worse? Would it induce strength or drive them apart? Jake stood firm, adrenaline thrumming through his veins as the crowd held its collective breath. Mr. Thompson's presence loomed large, a dark cloud amidst the vibrant colors of the festival. Every eye turned to them, whispers blending into a palpable tension. "Your little art show isn't going to save anyone," Thompson sneered, arms crossed defiantly, as he surveyed the bright faces of kids and parents alike. "This is against the rules, and I'll shut it down if you don't pack it up." After long days of planning and building something beautiful, the threat of it being torn down ignited a fire within Jake. He glanced at Mia, her eyes wide and hopeful, drawing strength from their bond. He couldn't let her down. Taking a step closer, he responded, "We built this event to foster community. To show that together, we can uplift each other. That's what matters." The murmurs in the crowd began to rise, a low rumble of support and agreement nudging its way through. Mia, emboldened by the energy around her, joined in. "Mr. Thompson, we only want to share our art and raise money for my family. It's not just about us. It's about everyone who struggles. Please, listen." Jake could see Thompson waver, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Listen," he scoffed, but Jake detected a faint crack in his armor. "You think this art will help them?" "Yes," Mia exclaimed, her determination dazzling. "Art connects us. It gives hope and reminds us that we're not alone." The crowd leaned forward, an invisible wall rising between them and the landlord, creating a protective barrier that pulsed with solidarity. Clara stepped forward, her presence grounding. "This isn't just about art, Mr. Thompson. This is about building a community that supports its own. Maybe you can join us instead of fighting us." Jake saw the landlord's resolve shift. "Just a hint. This is no charity event," he grumbled, though the brashness started to lose its bite. "It's a chance," Jake insisted, his voice unwavering. "A chance to stand with us, to be on the right side of change. Support what we're trying to do here, and you won't regret it." For a moment, the tension thickened, and Jake could hear the rhythm of his heartbeat matching the pounding in his ears. Thompson glanced at the faces before him, the mothers, fathers, and kids who had gathered for something bigger than any one person. Slowly, a baffled expression washed over his features, as if he were beginning to grasp a reality he'd dismissed for too long. "I don't have time for this," he muttered, uncertainty creeping into his tone as he considered the swelling support around them. Was he wavering? Mia spoke again, voice steady and clear. "We're asking for a chance. Just a chance." Thompson hesitated. Jake could see the flicker of a man wrestling with a hard exterior and the weight of personal history. "You think you can just change everything with your little drawings?" "Yes," Mia shouted with pure, childlike belief. "It's not little. It's beautiful." Jake's heart soared as he gazed at her sincere passion. The mood began to shift. One by one, the community stepped closer, their hands reaching toward one another. The support engulfed them, embracing the idea of unity that had burgeoned from their combined efforts. People were beginning to nod and murmur approval, the strength of resilience unfurling like a vibrant flag in the wind. Then, beneath that dark cloak of authority, Jake noticed something unexpected. Thompson's defenses began to lower. There was a human beneath the gruff exterior. "This might not be my business, kid," but he paused, eyes scanning the crowd. "But I don't want to see anyone thrown out." A tangible gasp echoed through the onlookers. Hope surged and filled the air around them, palpable and intoxicating. Jake felt a wave of relief crashing over him like a warm embrace. Mia's expression brightened, her face illuminating the moment. "Then be on our side. Help us make this festival something amazing. Can be about all of us." Slowly, the air shifted once more, and in a quiet, almost hesitant voice, Thompson finally said, "Fine. I'll give you this one chance." "Thank you," Mia cheered, her joy breaking through the tension that had gripped everyone moments before. Jake wrapped Mia in a tight hug, his heart swelling as the community erupted into applause. It was a fragile victory, but one that he felt they'd earned. The festival continued, laughter echoing down the paths as the word spread like wildfire. People were moved to offer their talents to more artists, musicians, and even community members bringing donations. As day turned to night, the festival turned vibrant under twinkling lights, illuminating their creativity and connection. Jake felt an overwhelming sense of belonging envelop him. He was part of something bigger, a community united by hope. And amidst that sea of smiling faces and the sound of joy, Jake knew he had finally found purpose, something far beyond profit, a mission to carry him forward. Mia beamed, eyes reflecting the light like stars. "Mr. Jake, look, it's all coming together." Joyful tears filled Jake's eyes, blending with laughter. "Yes, Mia. Yes, it is." As the night carried on with endless joy, Jake realized he had transformed. He was no longer the isolated millionaire cloaked in privilege. Now he was part of a family, a community that thrived on hope, facing challenges together. And as the moon rose high above the horizon, illuminating their continued fight, he knew they could weather any storm if they did it together. As the celebration continued, an urgent feeling bubbled within Jake. The world still needed to hear their story. You need to subscribe now to this channel, so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this that inspire change and courage. Hit that like button now to fuel the algorithm. It makes a real difference. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this emotional journey. Don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this amazing transformation. Together, let us spark hope.